Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nidhi. Thank you very much for having me in this program, and looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm as well. Prashant, before the recording, I was just thinking and joking with myself that what exactly should I do to match up to your level of energy and enthusiasm? So I believe I had to drink an extra cup of coffee. Yeah. Uh,
Particularly, it's pretty late in India now.
yeah, it is, but that's okay. And jokes apart, I'm seriously amazed at how many hats you don already, Prashant. Like you're an advisor to many firms. You've been an excellent orchestrator for the book that brought many leaders under one umbrella. That was a project through which we met. And you
Yeah.
also teach at B School. You're a founder of DBP. You're an author of best-selling books. Like the latest one that specifically is going to be the focus of our talk today as well is on data quality. So how do you pull it off? Like how do you manage all these things together?
No, at the core, Vidhi, what I do is on data analytics. So basically, just to summarize what you said, I do three main things. One is consulting. Number two is training. Then next, number three is research. So when it comes to consulting, I've consulted for almost 80 different companies to help them get value out of data and analytics. But the biggest enabler for change or getting results from data analytics, what I've seen is actually education or data literacy, which we call it.
Yeah.
So in consulting, you solve problems and everything, but one of the main ways of solving problems is to educate your stakeholders about how well you can solve this problem. So in my view, consulting is basically education as well, or a big component of consulting is education. So that brings to my second role, which I'm doing, which is an educator, which is training, for example. That's why it's kind of integrated in my view. Of course, I teach at IE Business School in Madrid, but I also teach for many corporates and for professional association. That takes a lot of time, like Association of Finance Professionals, IISc, then CFO.universities, HOFT, and all those associations. But even there, it's all about education and helping the company get or stakeholders or participants get value out of data analytics. And the third thing which I do is about helping the early stage companies about taking their product or services to the market, which is also on data analytics. So overall, yeah, I'm doing quite a few things, especially if people are following me in LinkedIn, they say that this guy is doing a lot of things. But at the core, it's all about educating the community or building the community on the value of data analytics. So it's actually simple. It's not as many as it looks. Of course, there are so many outcomes that are coming out of it, but
Yeah.
at the core, it is one fundamental thing which I'm doing. It's building the community and educating that specific community which I have been building on the value of data analytics.
And a part of your educating or maybe making everyone aware of data analytics, does it also flow through the kind of books that you're writing? I believe they are
Oh,
bestsellers.
yeah. No, well,
Yeah. And the
absolutely. So
third
when I
one
talk
that you've
about
already brought.
education,
Yeah.
correct. When I talk about education, of course, teaching or talking is one thing, but writing is also a main thing, or even listening, I would say. So when I write something, I generally collaborate with quite a few people, getting their perspective before I write something for Forbes or anything. So one thing is about collaborating, bringing some diverse view, because I might have a hypothesis or a point of view on a particular thing. So I just want to bring other people as well. So if you write, for example, whenever I write a blog on Forbes, behind the scenes, there are easily 7 to 8 people who have kind of reviewed my blog before it has gone live, for instance. So writing is an important thing where I write for CFO.university, FP&A Trends, and of course for Forbes. Then there's 3 books which I have, and quite a few white papers, and including that project which I did, which we did together for At Scale on that
Yeah.
ebook as well. So writing definitely is writing and talking is definitely part of that education,
Yeah. That's wonderful.
including this podcast.
Absolutely. How can I not say that? Thank you. And before we start getting into the technical side of scale, Prashant, I generally ask the leaders a very signature style question, which is about what has been their career journey to scale. So, would you like to tell us something about yourself? From where did you start? What were some inflection points in your career?
Yeah, I was born and raised in India, and I did pretty much my studies in India till my masters. I was in India. So in 2000, when I finished my masters, I was picked up by Procter and Gamble from Bangalore for their office in Brussels, in Belgium. So that was the first time I actually sat in a flight. Before that, I never sat in a flight. In fact, I never gone outside my home state. Just Bangalore and Mysore, the 2 cities I used to travel. So then I went to Belgium. I was there for a couple of years. Then for family reasons, I came back. Then I worked for GE and SAP in Bangalore. Then in 2009, SAP transferred me to Calgary, where I'm currently based for a project. And after a couple of years, I left SAP and I started my own with the DBP-Institute. So if I had to look at some of the big things that have happened in my journey, the first thing was getting that opportunity with P&G, because pretty much before that I was kind of uh, uh, confined to Bangalore and Mysore. So that international opportunity expanded my perspectives, my thinking about my collaboration and all those different things. So I started looking at different points of view from different people, how they solve problems and everything. So, and also about the perspective, more about globalization and international exposure. So that was number one. Then the number two would be on, from a career perspective, would be on moving to Canada. For instance, it was never planned, so it just happened by chance. I was sent by SAP to Calgary for a 2-week assignment, just to go and meet people and say hello and get the work back to India. But that project got expanded. I ended up staying here, and this is my 14th year in Canada. So that would be the second point. The third thing I would say from a career perspective is COVID was actually a blessing in disguise for me and my company. So before, when I started the company in 2012 till 2018 or even 19, most of the businesses were in Calgary. So, but in 2019 or 20, when the COVID hit, then the remote work started getting acknowledgement from many places. So people are saying, oh, whether this guy is in Boston or Bangalore or Barcelona, it doesn't matter, as long as he's good and he's able to do it. So if you're sitting, though you might be sitting in Bangalore, but you are not in the office, it doesn't make much sense whether you are in Bangalore or Mangalore, for example. So remote work started getting acceptance. So I started getting more and work from companies from outside Calgary. So from Netherlands, from Vietnam, from Dubai, from US, of course, and other cities in Canada too. So COVID actually was a kind of a blessing in disguise for me and for my company. So after that, say in 2021 and 2022, all the revenues which we got from different companies were outside Calgary. So that was a complete change, where we diversified our business from being a Calgary-centric company to a kind of a revenue model where it's all global now. So in even this year, the first 2 months of 2023, all our revenues and clients are outside Calgary, though I am based in Calgary. So these are the three major things. So many people, Calgary, COVID was a kind of a negative thing, but for me it's positive. But overall, if I look at my career journey, I always looked at outcome is a combination of two major things. One is input and your response. There are many factors. The input is not under your control and influence. So there are many factors which play a role here, but how you respond to it is under your control and influence. So many things can happen. The economy might tank, you might lose your job, or you might get laid off or anything. These are many of the times, these are not factors which are under your influence and control, but how you respond to that situation is under your influence and control. So I think I've kind of trained my mind to respond to those kind of things which are beyond my influence and control.
That's great. And Prashanth, allow me a moment, because what I'm seeing is that you beautifully summarized your career journey into those 3 points, right? And for somebody who is not aware of your life or something, when I hear you saying those things and what I see on LinkedIn, like you mentioned, those who see you on LinkedIn, they have a perception that you are managing so many things. It's just that over time, you've repeated yourself so many times that you become efficient at it, right? So I would paraphrase just what you said. Can I say that, your exposure to traveling outside India, maybe crossing boundaries, or globalization, or having international exposure, that gave you that kind of ability to carry out with risk, because you became an entrepreneur after that, and I think that has a big contribution to it. Would you consider it like that?
So are you saying that has traveling changed my perspective?
Yeah, maybe, traveling, just stepping outside of India, having more global exposure, it kind of increases the risk-taking ability of a person, I believe. So has it kind of contributed?
Oh,
No?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It started. It has definitely changed my perspective. So when I go back, when I talk to some of my friends and relatives in India, the and see where they are now. Traveling has definitely helped me. And it's not just about traveling per se. It's also about meeting people,
Yes.
meeting diverse people, and getting their perspectives and be open to their views. For instance, say hearing them out, how they it could be even talking a particular thing about politics, for example, how
Yeah.
they bring their position and where they come from and all those things. So it's all about being open to feedback and not being restricted, saying that, oh, this is me, and those kind of things. So traveling definitely makes you more humble. It makes you more knowledgeable, and in my view, traveling is one of the best ROIs you can get in life.
How can I not mention that road trip to Europe? Something I think I saw you posting here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. All right, Prashant. So I think now we are ready to get started with the technical side of scale. And I see you as the most suited expert to underpin the role of data quality in building scalable systems. So could you please zoom into that?
Yeah, so today we are so in my view, today every company is a data company. Whether, for example, if you look at Expedia, do you want to call Expedia as a travel company or a data company? Expedia
Hmm.
without data is practically useless. Google, for example, do you call it as an internet company or a data company? Google without data is practically useless. Amazon, is it an e-commerce company or is it a data company? So many companies have looked at have become very kind of valuable because of data. And it's not just this kind of tech-centric companies like Google or Amazon or Facebook. Even if you look at other non-tech companies like Lego, Novartis, John Deere, all those companies have, like even Moderna, when they came up with their COVID vaccine, they all used data to get better business results. MIT did a study, sorry, and they said that companies which are leveraging data and analytics for business are 26% more profitable than companies which are not as effective in leveraging data and analytics. So yeah, it's been proven that data and analytics is a very valuable tool for companies to get results. But at the same time, I've always been saying that data is a valuable asset only if you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, it becomes a huge liability, which becomes very difficult to get rid of. For example, the cost of data management is very expensive. So if you don't have a plan of managing your data, then the cost will tremendously shoot up. And we have seen many places where the cost of data management is going up in many organizations. Number one. Next, number two, today we are talking about carbon footprint and ESG. And one of the big polluters in the world at the rate at which things are going today is going to be the data centers. So if you manage data just because somebody told data is oil, blood, oxygen, so on and so forth, without thinking about about the environment, then you are not going very far with data management. Security is another thing. The more data you capture, the more vulnerable you become to the hackers, for example. Those people don't go for small mom and pop shops who have just about a few gigabytes of data. They attack companies which have terabytes of data. And many of the companies today have got dark data, which almost like 80 to 90% of the data is unused. So the security is also a big factor if you have more and more data. And also, last one is about branding. Say Cambridge Analytica came into limelight because of data analytics, and it was the same data analytics which resulted in the company's collapse. Uh, uh, um, so there's a lot of challenges which you have
Mhm.
if you don't manage data well. So data is definitely an asset if you know how to use it, and there's huge challenges, and it's very difficult to get rid of those challenges if you inherit them.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been educating at a high level about how to do it. So the value of data and analytics for the company. And data quality is one of the important things. If you don't have good data quality, garbage in is garbage out.
Yeah.
So you might have the greatest people to consume those insights and data, but if you're not able to provide them good quality data, then the insight will be going to be pretty useless. So that's another thing where data quality plays a big role in getting value out of data and analytics.
Yeah, and I kind of agree when you mentioned that the cost is something that we all need to look after, the cost of managing the data, the kind of piles of data that we are accumulating over the years, right? So what, in your opinion, are the effective measures to control the data, or maybe control that cost related to data management?
Okay, so the first thing is, number one, um, is purpose. So capture data only if you have a strong business need. Of course, it's when you're capturing data, it's very difficult to identify the tangible business need, but at least
Mhm.
keep questioning, why are we capturing the data? Yeah, and in many places, I have seen my clients telling me that, oh, we capture data. Oh, let's not discuss about purpose now. The cloud is very cheap. Let's move to the cloud. The cost
Yeah.
of storage in the cloud is very cheap. For that, we are capturing the data, hoping that at some point in time, we might use that data. But that can't be the primary reason why you are capturing the data. You are capturing the data because you need it. And if you think that
Mhm.
you are capturing the data because somebody told cloud is cheap, that's a highly debatable point. Let's not get into that discussion. But at the same time, I've given you some other reasons as well: cost, security, ESG, branding, and all those things which are related to that price which you are paying, even if you go with that statement that the cloud is cheap. For instance, today we are talking about FinOps. We have a separate practice in many companies where they're trying to reduce the cost of cloud cost.
Yeah.
So you see that companies have started to realize that the cloud costs are not very cheap. So that's why we have a new practice or a function that is coming. So regardless, coming back to your questions, what can companies do to be better? The first one is capture data only if it is aligned to the purpose. And what is the purpose why businesses need data? In my view, three reasons. Number one, to run operations. Number two, for regulatory compliance. Number three, for decision making. So if you're capturing the data for any reasons outside these three, question, be very critical about your questions, why you are capturing it. So it has to be directly or indirectly related to these three factors. So that's number one. Next, number two is, especially for operations and compliance are good, but when we talk about decision making, the challenge with decision making is deriving those insights where you can use it for making the right decision. And when you will look at the process of deriving these insights, all the data science model, they are dependent on two major factors. Number one, the data type which you are having. Next, number two, the questions which you are asking. For example, let's say that my question is, how much money we are going to make in 2025? Okay, so the question, how much money? How much is a numerical entity? So if I don't have that data type which is numerical in nature, I can't apply linear regression to derive those insights. So what does this mean? So you need the data type in the right format to derive your insights. But unfortunately, majority of the data that is captured is unstructured data. In my book, Data Quality, I talked about TAVI data, which is text, audio, video, and images. 80 to 90% of the data which is captured in the companies are unstructured data, because you capture it because you need it at this point in time, because your regulators are behind, might come behind you, or your operations people might need it, so on and so forth. So you're capturing this TAVI data. Good that you have some digital form of your record, but the flip side is this data type which you have is unstructured, which can't be used for your data science activity. So you spend a lot of time in converting that unstructured data into the right data model so that you can run your data science concept. So the number two is, so make some you just capturing the unstructured data will increase the cost, will increase the liability, will increase the risk. So it has to be structured so that you can get more value out of your data and analytics. So that's number two. So number three is I would say the soft aspects. The first one was business, second one was a little bit technical. The third one, I call it as the soft aspect. So what are the soft aspects? Which is about the culture and the literacy. So if you don't build a culture, an environment where where you have a culture of using data and analytics for business performance, then you are not going very far. So many people ask me, hey, Prashanth, what is this culture you're talking about? It looks like a very fluffy thing, which you are mentioning. So the culture of data and analytics, in my view, is about measurement and performance improvement. if you don't believe in the concept of measuring the business performance and using those measures to improve, you are not going very far with data analytics. Let me give a simple example which everybody can relate. Of course, non-business related. Suppose, for example, a person, Bob, goes to a lab, a medical lab, and gets his medical test done. And in the medical test, he gets a report, a data, which says that his cholesterol levels are off. So this is an insight he got. He never had that insight before. Now he got an insight saying that his cholesterol levels are off. So he has got two options. Either he can throw that report and say, I don't care about this. Or else now he says that, hey, I believe in this measurement. I want to improve my performance. So let me change my diet. Let me do some exercise. Let me get some good sleep, so on and so forth. So he has a choice. So if Bob doesn't believe in the concept of measurement and performance, whatever your data which you're collecting and the insights which you're giving to Bob, he is not going very far with this. He's just going to throw it. So many companies have got this kind of an idea. Oh, data analytics is cool. Facebook is making money. This company is making money. Let's also do it. But they don't have the culture. What is that culture? Measurement and performance improvement. That's what is missing in the many companies. So in fact, the third point I would say is the most critical thing or is especially more critical than number two. First is purpose. Next is your technical capabilities. Third one is about culture and education, which is literacy.
Yeah, I think you very well summarized it. I just have one follow-up on every of these points. First is on the purpose. So I've already often seen that in anticipation that I'll have some of the use case like you also mentioned. Then the day that I think I need to have my data ready so that I can start analyzing the data or see whether I have insights generated or it's insight worthy, for example, then somebody says that, okay, we can't really wait for that particular day because you have to start collecting data some n number of months before, right? So considering COVID has happened, things are changing very fast, and even the way businesses are run is also changing very fast. So the kind of questions with which you originally start with this whole activity also changes at a very rapid rate. So how do you suggest that organization should be on toes to know that, okay, now I'm looking after this set of questions and I need answers for these. I need some data for this. So start collecting it. So somebody has to be like very cyclical or very, very much on toes. So how do you suggest organizations should do that?
No, that's a great question, Vidhi. So, the first thing is your operations and compliance are the critical. So in fact, it's operations and compliance which are providing the food and the fodder for analytics or for decision making. They're the foundation. Nobody starts with analytics. Oh, let's collect data because we need to derive insights. They say that let's collect data because we need to run the business. And if regulators come, we need to show them the evidence. So often 9 out of 10 times it is the other way around. Operations and compliance drive the data needs for analytics. That's number one. People have to generally you have to accept that it's not analytics which drives is not the cart which drives the horse, which is the heart which the horse, in this case operations and compliance, which is pulling analytics. That's number one. Next, number two, there is a concept of this culture and literacy. So the biggest competition for data driven decision making is intuition. So why do people make decisions which are intuitive in nature? Often, in my experience, I've seen that people rely on intuition when they lack the skills to make data-driven decisions. Of course, there are many other reasons as well, but one of the primary reasons they make that intuitive-based decisions because there is no data. I don't know how to get the data. Even if somebody gives me the data, I don't know how to use it and derive the insights and everything. So one of the biggest competitors for data-driven decision-making is intuition. I'm not saying that intuition is bad. There are some use cases, very good use cases for intuition as well. But you need to bring data-driven decision-making and intuition, both of them together to make holistic decision. That's my point. So one of the biggest competitors, again, to summarize, one of the biggest competitors is intuition. Now, coming to your point about questions, it all depends on how you ask questions and how powerful those questions are. And I have been always saying that the more powerful your questions are, at some point in time, the data will give up.
Yeah.
So the data is a recording of the past event. It is a historical event. And I have been, a client of mine said that, hey, Prashanth, we run our business every day, but I get my reports every quarter, which happens in many places, right? There's always a lag in the time the insights are derived. And there's a lot of research done on half-life of insights, half-life of data, and all those things. So they even said that 60% of the value of the data is lost by the time it's actually captured. So there is a tremendous work that has been done on the value of data, so on and so forth. So the point is, for many people think that data is like a black and white kind of situation, but the reality is you are always working on a gray zone, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to data analytics. So the first thing is you have to accept that even though you make an effort to capture 100% data, it might not be sufficient because your questions are so dynamic, the business environment is changing, so on and so forth. Depending on the severity of the questions which you have, the data might just give up. So accept the fact that you need to be you need to be agile and flexible and iterative when you are asking those questions. And at some point in time, accept the fact that the data will give up. And if data gives up, where do you go for? So at the time, you go for your intuition, you go for your analyst reports and other places and make it happen. So, to some extent, I know what people are saying about, but at the same time, what I generally tell them is accept the fact that data, number one, there is nothing called 100% quality data. It doesn't exist, because that unicorn in no company is existing, because inherently the data itself is historical in nature. That's number two. That's number one. That's the first point. And the second point is the data itself is historical in nature.
Yeah. And when you mentioned something about dark data, even I have seen that once you've collected enough of data, now you become scared to lose data. And I think the insights, they don't really hold in the long run. For example, the user preferences are changing. If I'm just monitoring my user, which I think the eventual goal of every business is to know what their preferences are and how to better serve them to improve their engagement, because their preferences are changing very fast. I don't know how long should I keep maintaining the data, or what is the right way to maybe do away the data or archive the data. So what would you suggest the organizations to do first in case of dark data that's lying there, nobody is using? How do they part with that? And the one even they are using, if it's not relevant anymore, what is the right way to gauge that?
Yeah. So there are two, in my view. I wrote a blog also on Forbes,
Okay.
which is called Illuminating Dark Data in the organization. So people can read this. But I'll just, in the interest of time, I'll talk about, I quickly mention what I mentioned there. So there are two ways of managing dark data. The first one is about operations and compliance, which I talked about the purpose. Next, number two is decision making. So operations and compliance are typically driven by your regulatory and your business mandates. For example, especially in Canada, for instance, in the oil and gas industry, people say that you need to keep your procurement contracts for about 7 years. But many companies, despite having a digital copy of your paper records, they have procurement. They have all these procurement contracts for decades and decades. So the first thing is review your operations and compliance thing. Yeah, check whether you have your digital records wherever you have saved it in your ECM or whatever it is. So, and then kind of purge it or eliminate it if you are keeping it for 15, 20 years, because things have changed, nobody is using it because the regulator says 7 years. So many, in my view, hardly any companies are doing it, and they are spending tons and tons of money in storage and recovery management solutions and everything. That's number one. Next, number two is on the decision making. There is a value, there is a time limit on the value of the insights that have been generated. For example, I give you an insight about a particular business in 2019. So you might come and say, Prashanth, it doesn't matter because our business has changed after COVID. This insight is theory for me. It practically doesn't make no sense. So my view, what I call it, there's research which is done on the half-life of data. So which says that it's just a few hours. So in my view, if you're using data for more than 18 months to derive your insights, question that insights. And I'm not saying that you can't do, particularly if you're looking at seasonality and everything, you might want to go a little bit back. But generally, anything more than 18 months, those insights have to be taken with a pinch of salt, or you have to question those insights very critically. Today, we talk about data ethics. We talk about AI ethics. So that ethical part is also about harnessing the data, capturing the data which you're using for your analytics. So this is where I would say the rule of thumb is 18 months for data analytics. And when it comes to operations and compliance, this is what whatever the regulators say, whether it's 5 years or 7 years or 9 years, follow that rules. So anything more than that, is kind of a case for dark data.
People generally talk about data quality, and I can say that it's been an evergreen topic. It's been there for long. Everybody is concerned about it. We are now talking more about it because the rate at which we are collecting the data, right? But it's a loose term. If you just talk about data quality, people say that now what I've started hearing is that data quality is tied to a specific use case. The person who is eventually going to consume the data will decide how good or bad quality of data is. Then who is actually responsible for it? Or first, do you even believe that data quality is specifically tied to where the data is being gonna put to use?
No, I'm 100%. You can't boil the ocean and look at data quality as everything, right? So you need to pick the use cases which are kind of valuable. And we did a project on this to find out which of the domains which has got a high valuable use cases. So we took 3 areas of the business which where data analytics has an impact. One is on revenue. Next, number 2 is cost. The third one is on risk. And I think over 200 people took the survey worldwide, and the number one reason was on revenue management. So the revenue management is the main reason why data analytics can play a big role. So whatever your use cases are, whether it's on cost or risk, that's all fine. So number one, it's true. I agree. It has to be on use cases because you can't boil the ocean. You need to find a specific use case where you can focus on. But at the same time, you also, the other opposite end to that discussion might be many of the data is shared. Say, for example, customer data, for example.
Yeah.
It's used by finance, it's used by procurement, supply chain, it's used by marketing, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about I want to clean or I want to get high quality customer data, who is going to own this project, and who is going to pay for it? So is it marketing, is it finance, or is it supply chain? Because all of them are working on customer data. So this is where the discussion comes into the picture, because data is, you might have a great use case for marketing on customer 360, but marketing might say, hey, it's good, but let finance and supply chain also share some cost, because whatever I am doing is benefiting them too. So you have this kind of discussion about data sharing and budget management and all those things. So what use cases are important, but also the realities in the company about all this organization politics and building a use case and all those things also come into the picture. So of late, I have seen that there is, especially the big companies, the banks have gone for the role of the CDO, the Chief Data Officer role, mainly to manage these kind of situations and bring that ownership, because data is a shared entity. Everybody is using, it's a corporate entity, enterprise entity. But I also seen of late for many small medium companies, the CFO also has been stepping up and playing the role of the CDO in many small medium enterprises as well. So there has to be a champion who takes that, who believes that data is an enterprise asset, not like a line of business asset. It's being used across the enterprise. So that mentality also has to come into the picture while you are doing specific use cases, or else you might not get the full value. There is one quote from Aristotle which says that the whole is greater than sum of the parts. So this applies very much to data analytics.
Yeah, but then even if the data is shared, you see that there is no singular person who is going to own the responsibility of data quality. Even that responsibility is going to be shared across the teams. Then how would we come to that common definition of data, which might be that for data which is shared across the teams then?
So I break the whole data into 3 major categories. The first one is about reference data, which is all about categories like your plants, your sales organizations, your chart of accounts, and everything. Next, number 2 is about your master data, which is about your customers, basically about entities, customers, vendors, employees, products, items, so equipments, and everything. The last one is about transactions, which is all about data, which is a function of time, which is orders, invoices, remittances, and so on and so forth, anything to do with the function of time. So if you look at the reference and master data, they are typically shared. They are used across the lines of business. So that's where the role of the CDO's office or the data governance office comes into the picture, to manage your reference and master data. But if you expect the CDO's office to manage the transactional data, it becomes too cumbersome and complicated and bureaucratic. So you
Yeah.
allow the transaction data, manage the quality of those critical elements which are shared across the enterprise, and leave that respective transaction data. Like for example, marketing might use customer data. I use customer data to create a sales order. Okay, great. Supply chain will use the same customer data for what? For shipping, for deliveries. Okay, use it and create a delivery transaction document. Finance will use the same customer data for what? To collect money from the customers. So you have those same customer data, but finance is using it in a different way from invoices and remittances perspective. So you have the same customer data, which is managed by the CDO or the governance office, but the way it has been instantiated by these three different departments is completely different. And leave that autonomy, leave that power to that kind of line of business, and you control that kind of reference and master data so that you can distribute it to different entities.
That's great. In that case, like in the example that you gave, we are talking about data management. I think data quality kind of becomes a sub part of it. But when we talk
Mhm.
about data quality, do you really depend on the person who is going to consume the data? Maybe it's an analytics team or data science team, quote unquote, because they have a use case in mind when they start working on the data. I believe that most of the discoveries happen in the EDA, exploratory data analysis part, which is when you dissect the data in multiple ways and you see that this does not make sense, there is a bug in this, or maybe there is some field which is not populated correctly, which is a very broad level thing. There could be many hidden issues with the data quality as well, and then they route it back to the person, maybe the data team or somebody, to get it corrected. For example, if you are doing a web scraping of the data or something, right? And then they correct it back, and then it's kind of a cyclical thing. It goes through a lot of feedback loops. So who should be the eventual person on whose input the data quality should be measured against?
The consumption definitely is a critical element. The person who is consuming the data would decide or
Mhm.
would play a significant role on what the data quality levels are. But at the same time, so the data scientist and or even the data engineer also has got a role to play here, to provide him the right source of data, or being the or providing the ethical source of data as well. So it's not like a
Mhm.
black and white kind of answer. It's like a teamwork. It's like
Yeah.
everybody has got a role to play here, and to make sure that the data is consumed in the right way, in the right manner. Yeah, so it's a teamwork overall.
Yeah. And if I have to say, is there a unanimous way or an automatic way where we can perform those checks? Like, I believe there's a horizontal and a vertical thing. Horizontal is something which is valid all across the data, and vertical is very use case specific. So
Yeah.
anything which makes it very easy for teams to check data quality at scale.
So the first one is, I would go with the data, start with the bottom. So on the three
Okay.
levels of data which I mentioned, reference, master, and transactional, start
Mm.
at the bottom. What is bottom? Transactional data, because the reference and master data feeds into the transactional data. Like I was in a project for a transport company, and they
Mhm.
had 500,000 customer master records. They said,
Mhm.
"Hey, Prashant, we want to improve the data quality on 500,000 customer records." I said, "Cool, but tell me, in the last 18 months, how many customers did you do business with?" Guess what was the answer?
Hmm.
1,700. So
Okay.
your project goal is to clean the data of 500,000 or 500,000 customer records. But the reality is that you are doing business with just 1,700 of them. So I asked
Hmm.
him, okay, forget about 18 months, 5 years. How many customers did you do business in the last 5 years? The answer was 2,300.
Okay.
So we are like, sometimes, you have to ask that critical questions. What is the scope of this data cleansing project? So you might say that,
Hmm.
oh, okay, let's start cleaning this project with 500,000 customer records, and make a 2-year project with
Hmm.
multi-million dollar purchase order for me. But you also have to be ethical in your consulting gig, and ask the right questions. So what we told in this thing is, hey guys, it's good that you are having 500,000 customer master records, but let's start first with this 1,700 and clean them. And then there is a business need as well. Why you are, despite having 500,000 customer records, why you didn't do business with them? That's a secondary discussion. But in this case, let's not go and clean all this 500,000 record. The cost will go up. The schedule will go up. Let's attack this 1,700, because this is what it's burning. That's what I talked about, the half-life of data. Many times people start looking at the whole ocean and start to boil it. But in reality, there is the problem is
Always a
much
long tail,
simpler.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just have to be focused, ask the right question, and pick the ones which is transactions. I even wrote a Forbes blog on this, why transactional data is like the linchpin for analytics, why you should look the transactional data. In the interest of time, I'll just talk about those 3 reasons which I wrote in that blog. One is every transactional data has got a financial value. Every transactional data has got a relationship between the two counterparties, and every transactional data has got an impact on accounting. So I've written many reasons why you should look at transactional data, but these are the 3 main reasons why you should focus more on transactional data compared to master and
Hmm.
reference data.
Yeah. And Prashant, when you have to check the data quality, what are your go-to tools, maybe which you can suggest to everyone around and use and
Yeah,
leverage
sure.
them, at least as a preliminary level, at least? Yeah.
Yeah. So I use a framework called DARS, which,
Hmm.
in fact, in my book on data quality, I talked about this, which stands
Hmm.
for define the problem, assess the problem, realize the solution, and lastly, sustain the solution. So in
Hmm.
define the problem, you identify the use cases, what is the data quality problem you have, so on and so forth. You come up with that problem definition. Next, number 2, you assess the problem, because you might say that, oh, my customer master is bad, but let's talk about what are we trying to do it? What is the quantification of what is the impact of this problem? So I read in the book, I wrote about 16 reasons why companies have got poor data quality issues, and how do they come up in the first place? Why
Hmm.
are these issues originating? What is the reason? So I talk about those 16 reasons why they come up, and I talk about measures to assess the data quality problem. You mentioned about
Hmm.
exploratory data analytics. So I use 21 KPIs to assess the data quality levels, which I've mentioned in my book as well. So
Hmm.
that's the second phase, which is the assess phase. The third thing is realize. So how do you improve the data quality? So I talked about 10 strategies to 10 solutions rather to improve the data quality, including MDM solution, technical, business, everything. So I talk about
Hmm.
10 solutions to improve the data quality. And lastly, once you realize it, the next step is to sustain it. It's not just you just implement the
Yeah.
solution and live it. You have to control it, because all said and done, if you don't control it, data quality degrades. And research has shown that if you don't control the data quality degrades at 7% every month. So if you have a score of say 100 points today, if you don't do anything about it, next month it's going to be 93%. Then next time again, it's going to be 93 times 0.93, which is approximately 84%. So every time the data, it's going to be an exponential rate or compounded rate of degradation. So it doesn't happen overnight. It happens month by month, slowly and slowly. And one fine day, you will realize that your data quality really sucks. So put that control mechanism in place. It could be tools, it could be people, it could be teams, education, literacy, and all those things. So you have to build that sustainment practices as well to maintain the data quality. So again, as I said, data is a valuable business asset, and it takes some price and effort to maintain that asset. So anything valuable, you have to protect it, you have to manage it. That's what I've been saying many times.
Yeah. I was just wondering, Prashant, is there really a way that we can put a score to data quality? Like, do you do that?
No,
Yeah.
it's difficult, but at the
Okay.
same time, just to motivate the team and to go forward, it's better to have some objective numbers. So we come up with an assessment score on a scale of 1 to 4 in my
Okay.
company. So because when we talk about solutions, we say, oh, let's do this, and where do we go from here? Okay, if you do this,
Yeah.
20, I've suggested 25 things, but out of the 25 things in phase one, let's take 10 of them. So if you do 10 of them, from 50 you will go to 65. Then after that, if you do eight of them, then from 65 you will go to 70. But remember,
Hmm.
every step in data quality is going to be difficult. The next step
Yeah.
is going to be difficult, more and more difficult. So sometimes you have to attack the low-hanging fruits first, and get some motivate the team and go forward, and then take the more complex ones, so that you have built that success culture in the team, and go forward from there. So it's all about putting the roadmap. It's all about identifying which one to do fast, and how to energize the team, because ultimately this is a teamwork. So if you pick the one which is going to take months to do, and it's very complex, then the team might get demoralized as well, right? Oh, we are not getting
Yeah.
any result. So you have to, it's like a combination of technical, psychological, people aspects. All those things have to come together.
Absolutely. In fact, I think at the end of the day, these are people, developers, everybody as a team who are working together. So we need to manage their motivation as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you one thing when you mentioned about those 16 reasons that organizations data quality fail. So what do you think is the one which is uh, very, I think, high risk, or maybe something that the organization should put more focus on as compared to rest of the 15? Any one that you want to bring up?
Oh, okay, good one. So I'll pick
Yeah.
one. Well, on my favorite of the 16.
And for rest of the 15 people will go and read your book.
Yeah.
See, that's the smart part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. On the most important one,
Hmm.
people think that data quality is like a one-time project,
Hmm.
but it's an endeavor. It's a continuous improvement project.
Hmm.
And data quality is always uh, can get jeopardized when the data moves.
Hmm.
And the data will definitely move because the business itself is an evolving or a moving entity. So you
Hmm.
can't think that the data is once you create the data and it will remain static. It will change, it will move. And whenever the data moves, the data quality often gets jeopardized.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why data quality gets affected. Like, for example, you capture the data in your, let's take, you capture all the leads data in
Hmm.
Salesforce, and you capture all the orders data in SAP, ERP. And now you
Hmm.
want to do a kind of analytics on leads versus sales, for example.
Hmm.
So you bring both the leads data and the sales data, do the ETL stuff, and bring it to your data warehouse and say, let's do this analytics. So that means you are moving the data. You are removing the data, which has got all the security compliance, data quality attributes, everything, which is adhering to the respective models, good or bad, of Salesforce and SAP. You are removing the data model, data structure, everything, and bringing it to a canonical table, which is the data warehouse, which could be wherever, Databricks, Snowflake, blah, blah, blah. But once the data moves, there is a good chance that the data quality gets jeopardized. And I also talked about the 12 dimensions of data quality. What is this data quality? I mentioned about different attributes of data quality in the book as well. But overall, if I had to pick one reason, one of my favorite data quality reasons
Yeah.
is this one. Data quality is not a static thing. The data quality gets jeopardized whenever data moves. And that's the reason why data governance is not a one-time project. Wherever the
Yeah.
data is moving, you need to take care of data and just see what's happening to the data there.
Yeah. Now, when you mentioned that data movement is one of the core reason, I realized that back then in my with my own teams, I used to say that whenever data is changing shape and type, there's a handshake of data. Like you have a lot of translations that is happening in between. That's where we need to be very much cautious about what is eventually happening with the data quality. And those are the checkpoints that I generally put that, okay, look at how your data was before, how is it now? But
Yeah.
glad that you brought it up, and it's no surprise that it is one of your topmost reason for the data quality degradation. All right, so with that, I think Prashant, we've come to the last leg of the episode. But before I let you go, I just want to know, some of the parting notes that you would like to give for the people who are working in the data industry.
Hmm.
You
At the
didn't
same
think
time,
this much during the entire talk.
yeah, no. At the same, I'm also learning. It's not just because I'm saying something doesn't mean that I'm the expert in this.
That's
I'm
you being
also learning.
humble. Okay.
Yeah, I'm also learning. Um, uh, but one thing, it all looks like data analytics looks like a technical field, but in reality, what I've seen, it's all about people. Working with people is the most important skill one can develop. It looks like when you go to Twitter and LinkedIn, you might think that, oh, if I learn SQL or if I learn R programming or Python, I might
Mhm.
become a good data scientist. But that's one small part of the equation. The real equation, when I look at successful data people or even successful professionals, the two things which have really, or three things which have really stood out when I talk to them, why these people are successful, is number one is critical thinking, is about asking good, powerful questions. Number two is communication, how they put across their thoughts, or listen, including listening, writing, talking, and all those things. So communication is the second important thing. And the third thing, which I would say, is working with people. How do you collaborate and be humble, be open, think positively, and all those things. So it's true that Python skills, SQL skills, and data integration and all those skills are important. but I have seen that successful data people and successful professionals, these three of their are their key attributes. Of course, I'm also learning from them, and I'm also growing every day by learning with them. And coming to critical thinking, for example, today we are talking about Chat GPT. So in my view, uh, the success of using Chat GPT for your success is dependent on how good you are in asking questions. So if
Yeah.
you're good in asking questions, you can use Chat GPT is your friend. If you're not good in asking questions, then you'll not be able to use it
Yeah. You are
as
on
your
your
ally.
own then. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Got it.
about when I did my PhD, my guide said one thing: Prashant, you did your undergrad, you did your masters and everything. In your undergrad and masters, you are expected to provide answers, but in PhD, you are expected to ask questions, good
Yes.
questions. And that's where we are going. That's where the value add of the professionals are going up. It's about asking more and more good questions. If I had to just get good answers, and if my job is a robot, like there's no difference between you and me, the people will say, okay, anybody can do it.
Hmm.
Ask questions to ChatGPT and provide the answer. But what
Yeah.
questions to ask is where the trick is.
Absolutely. Now that you're saying you're putting too much emphasis on asking the right questions, I hope I did justice by asking you all the right questions to get all
Oh,
that
absolutely.
knowledge
It
and
was
wisdom
great. It
from
was a
you.
great conversation, Vidhi. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I look forward to meeting with you sometime soon as well, Prashant. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, sure. Okay, looking forward, Vidhi.